Hi guys, it's Kian. Today we have a sort of a chit chat tier ranking video. I'm gonna get onto the bed and then we'll start talking. So today's video is with Gabby, my first doll, and we're gonna rank a bunch of stuff, mainly in the idea of how much of your doll lives forever. We're gonna go through a few things that a doll comprise, and we're gonna rank each of them from S to F. You know what, I'm just going to show you my notebook. I don't know how good it will be. Yeah. So we have a list of things that we're going to rank today. And then we're going to rank them from S tier all the way down to F. S would be this part of a doll lives forever. And then F, which is on the bottom, is this thing is going to die a quick death. So I'm going to replace this part with a proper tier list, but for the time being while I'm filming this video, if you're wondering what is this random paper notebook thing, that's what it is. So for some context, Gabby is a Cerberus project Lish, I forgot how to pronounce it. So he was originally sold from Lutz, and this is a Lish trimming leash head and then a Delft Type 3 body. I got him in 2009. So as of filming this video, he is 16 years old going on 17. He'll be 17 in August. So this is a very old doll. He is originally white skin. Now he's kind of yellowish. He's not really gotten super green, but also with the green background, it helps to make him look a bit less green, if that makes sense. So it really depends. Sometimes the green makes him look worse, like more green. Sometimes the green makes him look a bit less because it is so obviously greener than he is. He looks less green, but it doesn't really matter. So let's start with tier ranking. How much of your doll actually lives forever? And so Gabby being my first doll, he's also kind of the timestamp of like the amount of time I've been in the hobby, and that should give you a sense of like how much I actually have experience telling you what I'm gonna say. So BJDs is a relatively new hobby, in the sense of like out of the hobby of collecting dolls. Ball jointed dolls came about in like late 1990s. I think 1999 was one of the first Vogue store, or maybe slightly earlier. So dolls cast in resin with ball joints for movability. So we're speculating about how much they can live forever, but we will do some speculation based on evidence of having collected dolls for the past 16 years. So we'll see. The first thing that I want to rate is how much of the doll itself, meaning the resin bits, all these resin bits are gonna live. And I think I'm gonna go with like a combination of like it's literally gonna live forever, like the material will be here, but also like how much of it is in good condition. And so I think resin kind of falls in somewhere like quite high up. I would say it's near the top here, like maybe a A or B. It's definitely not S tier because as everybody who collects ball jointed dolls know, resin will yellow. Over time, this is something that will happen no matter what you do. But I think if you take care of your dolls, or you can prolong that process, or rather you can reduce the rate at which that yellowing happens, and also the stuff that you can do to kind of mitigate it. So a lot of times dolls yellowing is a breakdown of the red pigments, and also sometimes it's just, you know, like plastic yellows. So if you add back some red pigments, you can somewhat de-zombify your doll a bit. So like the actual material itself probably going to be around for many years because it's plastic, But in terms of the condition, like the color and all that stuff, I would put it into B. So the doll itself, B tier. Alright, the next thing that I want to rank are the eyes. So I'm gonna break down the eyes by material, because I think for eyes, how long the eyes will like last is dependent very much on the material that the eyes are made out of. I won't do this for every single thing that the doll has if I don't think that there's a big difference. So for eyes, the first one I'm gonna go with is Glass Gabby. I got him with glass eyes. I mean, I got glass eyes for him when I first had him, and I still have that pair. I'll put a clip somewhere. Which, by the way, I'm trying to sell this pair of eyes. So if you didn't know, I have an Instagram sales page. I do also sell all of the same things on Den of Angels if you would rather buy from there. But for people who don't have Den of Angels marketplace access, I do sell stuff on Instagram. So I don't know whether the eyes will still be available by the time I finish editing this video, but if there's other stuff that you want to check out, feel free to go and look at my Instagram sales page. But anyway, I still have the eyes. I'm trying to sell them because like I got better eyes for him. But the glass eyes, I think, have not changed in how they look over the years. The one main thing about eyes, I would say, is always the eye whites. The eye whites will yellow, same as like resin, because it's made of some sort of plastic. So usually the whites are the bits that go yellow fastest, and that's the thing that kind of the condition deteriorate. Why can't I speak? The condition gets worse so fast that I don't think they serve the purpose anymore. And so even though technically the object might still be there, I think sometimes the yellowing makes it such that I don't want to deem it as living forever. So I think glass eyes are S tier for me. They don't change much over the years. I don't think they're going to change much over the years. And if you look at glass objects in real life, stained glass windows, all that stuff, those have a history of like many more years. So like I think as a material itself, it has a lot of potential to be forever. So next one we have resin eyes. So resin eyes are what Gary has on right now. These pairs are from Enchanted Doll? ED. Yes, I think that's Enchanted Doll. So he has had this pair for, I would say, maybe 6 or 7 years maybe. And so resin eyes, the quality of it really depends on how well made it was, as well as the material that was used. So I think resin eyes have a bigger range of quality, and that will definitely affect how well it can live forever. So I would say on the poor end of it, resin eyes, things like losing the shine, so like the coating over the resin eyes, things like the color of like the pupil. So Gabby has blue eyes. Sometimes the pigments that the makers use, will not be color fast, or they might change color because the clear resin that's poured over to kind of create a dome shape yellows, and therefore like a lot of blue eyes tend to go slightly green over time, is what I found, because a lot of my dolls have blue eyes. Elfie's previous pair basically went green, and so I would say that, and of course the eye whites is always an issue. Eye whites turning yellow. The really poor quality ones will turn like yellow within a year. Some of them turn super buttery yellow. It's also like not always like an even yellow either, so sometimes it's a bit patchy. And the clear coating sometimes gets tacky, and once it gets tacky, it does this very gross thing where sometimes insects stick on it, which yeah, one of the not nice bits of collecting dolls that people don't talk about much, but I mean, it happens. So, I feel like resin eyes have a range in quality, but on the best that I have so far, the best that have endured time, which is the EDs that Gabby has on. So generally, I have quite a few pairs of EDs, like more than 5. They are very expensive for eyes, but I would say they last the best out of resin eyes. So if you love resin eyes, because they can definitely do something that glass eyes can't. And also glass eyes, I feel like tend to look a bit plain. Resin eyes have a bit more detail. The glass eyes that have more detail are like the handmade eyes with like souls, which some Japanese makers do, but those will then cost actually oftentimes more than a similar design with resin. So the pair that I bought of Dolly Terrier, a pair of glass eyes that has like nice soles, nice colors, everything, cost about 100 USD. This fancy resin eyes are also like somewhere in that range, like maybe 80 USD. So, um, yeah, but in terms of lasting forever, I would say, EDs hold up like probably the best out of all the resin eyes I've had. And even then, Gabby's eye whites are still slightly yellow. You just can't see them because his resin is yellower than his eye white resin, you know, like his doll resin. So, resin eyes I would put at, I think it's a bit less than middle of the road, so I'm gonna put it at D. Yeah, I'm gonna put it at D. Because I think the chances of you getting one that's not gonna last long, like you might need to replace it in about 3 to 5 years time, is a lot more probable than it lasting as long as it has. Like Gabby's pair is on the extreme end of resin eyes lasting well. I have had a lot of pairs that did not last well. So next on the list we have silicone eyes. Gabby doesn't wear them, but Sion used to wear silicone eyes. Sion is my Migidor Miho. And I still have that pair of silicone eyes. I would say it's held up generally okay. The eye whites have gone yellow, which is typical because plastics. The color itself is relatively fine, I would say. It still looks blue, at least, which is better than what some of the resin eyes that are blue can do. Those have turned green, and like distinctively green, like you can tell without comparing it to anything else, you can tell that it's green. And silicone eyes are always a bit like slightly, I wouldn't say like tacky, like it's not sticky, but silicone eyes are always a bit like, they're like just ever so slightly tacky. But I feel like that texture hasn't really changed much. Although to be fair, the silicone eyes I have are from Ico. I've only ever owned the ones from Ico, and I believe there are some of the ones with the better quality. But again, not many companies make silicone eyes, so I think maybe not a fair judgment. But I would say those lasted me better on average than resin eyes. I've owned, I think 3 or 4 pairs of silicone eyes. I've sold most of them except for like the one last pair that I have. So really the only pair that I can use to speculate from is the pair that Sion used to wear. But that pair has held up pretty well. So I would put that at C tier. Between the doll itself, resin, and which is at B tier, and in D tier we have resin eyes. So silicone eyes are in between that. So just for completeness sake, I would also rank acrylic eyes, but I would say I don't have as much experience with acrylic eyes because those are the eyes that tend to come with dolls, and usually I don't like how they look on my dolls. I find them a bit flat, like they don't really, I don't know, like reflect as much like when you take photos. So I tend to sell them quite fast, and as a result I don't own them for long enough periods of time to know how they fare over time. So I I think the longest I've ever owned a pair is maybe like in the range of like 3 years. And generally they look about the same to me, but also I'm not using them. They're just like in some drawer somewhere, so I think they're fine. I'm gonna put them in the same range as silicone eyes just because I don't know better. If you are an avid acrylic eyes user, feel free to let me know if my opinion is similar to yours. Feel free to correct it if you think it's wrong. So moving on, the sixth thing we're ranking today is wigs. So this is not the wig that Gabby originally had. I still have it. I still have the wig that I bought Gabby with. So that wig is also in the range of 16 to 17 years old. It is perfectly fine. And for wigs, I'm not breaking it down into types of fiber, but just to give you an idea of the types that I've tried over the years. Fiber, faux fur, I've tried mohair. So the mohair that I had was with like the wig cap was part of animal skin. I didn't know when I commissioned the hair, but like that was what the maker was doing it with. But it's also possible to get loose mohair, like fibers, things like that. So usually the fibers that I have most of the wigs I have are like, I don't know how to explain, like the regular fibers that you would get, because I know there are some thinner ones, like the kind that they use for Barbies. Saran? I feel like that's wrong. But there are some other fibers that are thinner than this, and those are similar to the kind that are used in Barbie hair, like the hair that Barbie dolls have. So I've not bought wigs that are made of those fibers. The ones that I have are usually closer to the heat resistant ones, so they're definitely like thicker in diameter than the Barbie doll hair fibers. And I've also had wigs that are made of fiber, but they're like lace front, so those are often usually stout with like glue, or I don't know. I think most people use glue for long lasting effect, but I'm pretty sure some people use hairspray as well. Anyway, I'm talking about all of those types of wigs. In general, I'm just gonna give an overall ranking because I don't really feel like they differ super a lot. And I'll say wigs can stand the test of time. The only thing that like kind of makes it horrible is maybe if you destroy like the fibers, like if you are a bit too rough with how you store it, sometimes you can kink it, like, you know, like cause a sharp like kind of shape to your fibers, and then that wig will look horrible. So I would say, with the exception of maybe like the mohair that had the animal skin wig cap thing, I would say like wigs last forever. So they're going into S tier. Next we have I'm gonna lump a very big category. We have clothes, shoes. I don't know whether you can see what he's wearing, but he has shoes. Yep, so shoes. And then accessories like necklace and all that stuff. I'm lumping them all together because I'm going to divide my ranking based on the type of material that is on it. I think that is probably more accurate. And like they have overlapping materials, so I'm just going to rank it once. So the things that I'm going to rank are fabric in general, white fabric specifically, PU leather, and any metal bits that accessories, clothes, or shoes have. So first one is any kind of fabric. Fabric, as you know, if you wear clothes, which you should, I'm pretty sure you do, you would know lasts pretty well. Especially for doll clothes, which doesn't get dirty and therefore doesn't need as much washing as human clothes. They pretty much last forever unless you, I don't know, deliberately destroy them in some way. So, yeah, nothing's really happened to any of his clothes, with the exception of white ones, which we'll get to later. So those also last forever. They are going into S tier. Next, we have white fabric. So white fabric is the only one that I think is very annoying. Some of the white stuff that I bought very early on in the hobby, you can tell they're not pure white anymore. I'm sure if I try to do some like oxy treatment or whatever, it'll probably be able to restore the whiteness. Generally, like white clothes, the same with humans, you have to wash it to kind of keep it clean. So for dolls, I think although they don't sweat, like obviously me handling my dolls, I have oils and sweat and stuff like that. So it does cause yellow stains on clothes. Over time, it's not like a one-time thing, but it's like if you don't wash this white item over a few years, it's gonna have a bit of stain. So usually if you just go and wash it, it's fine to come out. I'm gonna put them in B tier, same with the doll resin itself, because I think if you take care of it, it can last you for a longer time. But inevitably, just the nature of the material means that it's gonna yellow. Next is anything that is PU leather, faux leather. So just now I already showed you his shoes. I'm too lazy to zoom out again to show it to you, but this pair of shoes are quite old. Like I mentioned in one of the dress up videos, I got it before I got Gabby actually, and I got it secondhand. So the pair of shoes that he has, which does have PU leather, is made before I got him, so has to be longer than 16 to 17 years. It's held up okay. Gabby has socks on because the inside of the shoes are kind of like flaking a bit, and I don't want it to stain his resin, so he has socks on. But I would say this pair of shoes lasting as long as it did is kind of like similar to his EDIs, right? I think these are like the extremes of the category. I think in general PU leather is horrible. I'm gonna put it in F tier. I try so hard to find things that are not PU leather because they just flake very fast, they die. And then you spend all this money on this nice well-made thing, which pisses me off even more because it's so well-made, but like the material doesn't hold up. And so like it's wasting your time, your effort, the person who made it, who sold it, their effort. Like I just think it's not worth the money. So horrible, horrible PU leather. Going into F tier. Next, we have metal bits on clothes or necklaces. So I would say this one is kind of like a hit or miss. Sometimes they rust, sometimes they don't. Again, dolls have the benefit of not sweating. Again, they have the issue in which me, a human, has skin oils when I touch them. So, like this is fine, doesn't go into the wash. This is probably gonna be fine because it doesn't go into the wash, but I have had doll like I'm too lazy to show you, but like for example, sometimes they have a button for the top of their pants closure. I have doll pants where the button is rusty, but I keep the pants because it's on the front, like you're not gonna see it usually, because the shirt will cover it. And it's not touching the door, so it's not gonna like stain the door or anything. So I just keep the pair of pants, but rust does happen. And if you're into like clothes that have like grommets or like I think especially for punk doll clothes where there are a lot more things that are like not really like washable necessarily. Like grommets are still like made to be washable, I think. But things like chains or like cross chain not chains, charms and other things that sometimes like punk clothes like to put on, especially for dolls, because you know we don't wash doll clothes that often, not like human clothes. They're not really made to be like durable for washing, and those I think tend to rust faster. Grommets on shoes for some reason sometimes rust as well. I've had a few of that. So I would say they are not horrible. Generally the metal stuff do last, but sometimes once in a while you just get like rusty things. So I mean things that rust over time. So are they as bad as resin eyes? I would say no, they're not as bad as resin eyes. Are they similar to silicone and acrylic eyes? Yeah, yeah, I would say. Are they good enough to go into like doll resin itself and white clothes? Actually, yeah, I mean, like, metal actually doesn't do horribly on there. Somewhere between B and C, I'm gonna put it into B tier. Yeah, I'll put it into B tier. So, next on the list, we have things like blue tack, silicone kips, and other plasticky-ish things that you have in your doll to make them, like, workable. Blue tack I use to hold their eyeballs. Silicone kips, I do have them usually in like the shoulder joints or whatever, just so they pose better. But there are some dolls that have silicone kips like inbuilt into the joint to kind of provide more friction. So like, I guess you can do without kips, but I think you can't really do without like blue tack or plasticine or like I don't know silicone earplugs to hold the doll eyeballs in. You need something to hold the eyeballs in, and it's gonna be some sort of plasticky tacky thing. That thing in general doesn't last very well. Depending on what you use, plasticine is don't use plasticine that has oil. Yeah, don't use plasticine it has oil. It's gonna stain your doll. But there's this like weird tack that some companies like to send, which has a consistency that is similar to plasticine. I hope it's oil free. I never use it. But I hate those. Because all the secondhand dolls that I've received that has had like weird gunk stuck in their eye wells tend to look like that. I don't know if it's exactly that, because that's probably from the previous owner. But those things stick to the eye wells, harden, and are so painful. I mean, not painful to remove, but so troublesome to remove because I have to go in and like use my nails to like slowly scrape it out because I don't trust anything else. Like I think my nails are relatively soft enough to not damage the resin, and I have like control over my fingers. I can feel stuff. But if I use like a tool, I might gorge out more than I want. Anyway, I use blue tack. To be fair, the blue tack that is in their eyeballs are the same pack that I bought when I first got Gabby. So it's also 16 to 17 years old. I know, a bit gross maybe. But it's worked, so it's fine. It doesn't look good though, but you're not gonna see it. Kips as well, silicone kips that you put in their joints. They will yellow over time. Those don't hold up as well. And sometimes they're visible, so if they are way too yellow, you probably need to change them. For a very long time, Gabby had like I forgot which elbow had a silicone kip that was kind of reddish because it got stained by one of his t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and I just never changed it for a long time because it was troublesome to get new kips to repair, like just one. Like I didn't want to buy a whole packet and like pay for shipping and all that just for one kip to be replaced, so he just had like this red-ish kip on one elbow. But I would say they don't last forever, but like the condition definitely deteriorates, but it's not the worst thing because it's not the most visible bit of a doll. But like forever, it's not gonna last forever, right? So I'll put it in D tier, I guess, with Resin Ice, just cause it technically lasts forever, but it's not gonna look nice. But also it doesn't really matter. Next, elastics. Ball jointed dolls definitely have elastics. So Gabby is on like his 4th or 5th restring since I've gotten him. And I'm kind of lazy about restringing, so the fact that he's gotten like possibly 4 sets of string at least in him means that I really did it because I had no choice. He was too loose. So I think elastics in general, before the look of it, like, because obviously white elastic does yellow a bit, but the main thing is just that it gets worn out once it's inside, gets stretched, and then the doll becomes very loose. So elastic is, it doesn't die a quick death. I'll put it in E tier just because it's not horrible, but it definitely does not last as long as Resin Ice. Especially if you want a doll that is like tight enough to hold a pose. I think you definitely need to change elastics more often. I'm the kind of person who has dolls that mostly sit and stand only. I don't really do a lot of like fancy poses with them, so I don't change their elastics that often. We have S-hooks and magnets. So S-hooks, like I showed you just now, Gabby has an S-hook in his hand here, he has it in his feet as well. Magnets, Gabby does not have it for his head caps, but most of my dolls have magnets in their head caps, and I don't know if I have the video for it, but if I do, I'll put it in. My Lutz Bliss last time had a magnet that, like, basically the outer metal bit peeled out and then the iron filings inside were visible. I had to tape it shut. And I think some of my dolls have the same thing. They have just like have tape holding down their magnets, like Sion has that problem. And then Gabby doesn't have it. None of my current dolls have it, but I used to have a little fee. So his hands were attached to his wrist bit with a magnet. And generally speaking, I think magnets will kind of deteriorate over time. For the head magnets, it's usually probably because I wash their head with water when I remove their face ups. Like after I do all the chemical removal with thinner or isopropyl alcohol, I will rinse it with water. Maybe it doesn't dry enough, I don't know. With the wrist, I have no idea why Cypher had magnets that were like iffy, but like because I never opened them until like very late into the bit when I was like just checking their conditions before I sewed him. I don't know, maybe just regular handling, or maybe they just, you know, water vapor in the air. Singapore is pretty humid, so anyway, S-hooks, I've never really encountered it rusting. The one inside the head sometimes, but those I have replacements of. But I would say it's not a super common occurrence. Magnets though are very troublesome to replace because like not just because I can't find the size, but also because sometimes you just can't get them out. And like funnily enough, the ones that don't the magnets that are fine, sometimes they're indoors where the magnets keep falling out. So the magnets that I want to get out, I can't get out, but the magnets that I don't want to get out keep falling out. But I would say they last fine. So I'm just gonna put it. They last about 10 years before like you kind of have to do stuff like tape them up. So that's not great, I guess. It's not as bad as elastics. I'm gonna put it in detail with the blue tack and stuff. Blue tack and resin ice. So the last thing on this list is an intangible thing. It is your doll's backstory. So I'm just gonna call it OC stories or whatever you wanna call it, original character stories. Cause like the doll is a physical object, right? But I think a lot of doll owners have characters for their dolls. And if you're asking the question how much of your doll is gonna live forever, I think it's important to consider the physical aspect of the doll as well as like the story, the character aspect of it. And if you're one of those people who collect dolls and like they have no backstories, I just give them maybe a name. Sometimes I don't even give them a name. And I guess that's fine. Do you still think your doll has some sort of spirit? By the fact that it's embodying something? I don't know. But like for people like me who have like characters for the dolls, even if it's just like something simple, like this is the doll's name, they have like relations to this other character and this other character and this other character. Maybe they are a brother, a sister, a lover or whatever. So like I think, for example, Cypher is a character that I've reshelled from a little fee Pong Pong into my dear boy Ruby. So definitely the character has lived on. But I've also have had dolls where I sold them because I don't really want to do much with the character anymore. So like Sion used to have a twin called Hugh. If you see some of my earlier videos, he's still inside. And I sold Hugh's doll form because I didn't need another Miki doll Miho. And I'll talk more about twins in another video, but like I think OCs is kind of like iffy. I feel like no matter what you do, even if you change the story, the OC will forever live on. It's like how I'm talking about Hugh now, even though I don't have the doll anymore. Even though the story itself is also not fixed. I feel like the legacy of the story lives on, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna put it in A tier because I think the story itself is kind of amorphous. I think like it doesn't have to be stuck in a particular state. Like it is not as permanent as the way glass eyes are, for example. Glass eyes, wigs, probably not gonna change much. But my OC stories, yes, it's gonna live longer than a doll sometimes. But it's also gonna change sometimes. So gonna put OC stories in A tier. And so I have my tier list, which I'll replace in post, but like we have 3 items in S tier: glass eyes, fabrics except white fabrics, and wigs. In A tier we have OC stories. B tier we have the doll resin itself, any white fabrics for clothes, metal bits in the clothes and accessories. And then in C tier we have silicone eyes and acrylic eyes. In D tier we have resin eyes, blue tack, as well as magnets, S hooks and stuff. It's quite funny I put magnets, S hook and stuff lower than the metal bits in clothes, but I think the clothes metal bits don't die as badly, maybe I just don't own enough clothes with metal bits that have died. In E tier we have elastics, and in F tier, dies a quick death, I have PU leather, the most hated thing I have in the doll hobby and also just for clothes in general. Alright, that's all for this tier list. How much of my dolls will live forever? After a long enough time, the doll is gonna be just glass eyes, wigs, and a bunch of clothes, and maybe a body, but it's like horribly yellow, and a living story, I guess. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. I'm gonna segue a bit. I'll put this at the end because I think it makes the video a bit it makes the intro a bit long. But the reason why I wanted to do this video, I actually put Gabby into this shirt for a different thing. I have a different channel that is just for mainly talking about myself. It's kind of like a blog in the old days, but I just talk in a camera, so it's a video blog. And over there I also share some of the poems that I write, even though I'm not a huge fan of poems necessarily, but it's just kind of a thing I've been writing. And so anyway, the point is I changed him to this so that I can use him to body double as something that I wanted to use in the background of the poem video. And so he was in this, and I put him into a stance that reminded me of how Oasis lead singer Liam Gallagher stands. And like I have been in an Oasis rabbit hole recently, so you know, one of their famous songs is Live Forever, and I've been thinking about it recently, so that's how this video came about. I'm gonna put this at the end. Pretty sure it detracts from not detracts, but I think it derails the flow of the video if I put it at the start. Anyway,